safety of South Africans is in jeopardy. And this syndicate involves, amongst others, politicians who are currently serving in parliament. The law enforcement officers include the members of the South African Police Service, the Metro Police, and Correctional Services. The minister denied on record.
The objective was to out the minister as being responsible for interference in the execution of policing duties. Why did he want to out the minister? I'm not sure.
Despite the severity of the allegations against the Minister of Police, the President chose the route of a special leave, which is not, there is no space for that within our Constitution.
The Commission won't be beginning on the 1st of September because the Justice Department has failed to procure vital infrastructure that's necessary for that inquiry. But what really is going on here?
Having it picked up today that the Madlanga Commission is not going to be able to sit because of XYZ.
Yes.
Says a lot with regard to the seriousness of the matter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the EFF podcast. My name is Lebohang Mojapelo, and I'm the editor in the National Communications Office. On the 6th of July 2025, KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi held a press briefing where he made explosive claims against senior police officials, including Minister Senzo Mchunu and Deputy National Police Commissioner Shadrack Sibiya, and other members of the judiciary, crime intelligence, and political leaders. What led to this was the premature disbandment of the Political Killings Task Team, which has done amazing work in catching many political killers and finding traces within assassinations of political leaders and whistleblowers. What Mkhwanazi uncovered was that there was political interference, the involvement of civilians in high-level intelligence, and he also accused police officials and judges of working within a sophisticated crime syndicate in Gauteng. The reason for the disbandment of the Political Killings Task Team was said to be that they were getting too close to making these connections between crime intelligence in South Africa, police officers, the judiciary, political leaders, and an international drug cartel. When these allegations were made, it became very clear that for a lot of people who have lost faith in the policing system in South Africa felt vindicated that indeed there was something going on. And what has happened since then is that the President commissioned the Madlanga Commission in order to look into these killings, as well as an ad hoc committee was pushed by the EFF in the National Assembly in order to figure out were the claims correct, who is involved, and what are the next steps to take towards that. But more crucially, what reforms are needed within the South African Police Service, Intelligence Service, and the judiciary in order for people and the public to have faith within our policing systems again. The ad hoc committee is to look into, are these allegations true? What prosecutorial steps need to be taken to find the people who are involved accountable, as well as how do we make policing a system that the public believes in again? These are the important things that the ad hoc committee needs to suggest. However, the Madlanga Commission has hit a setback as a couple of days ago, they've not been stated that they've not been provided with the necessary infrastructure for them to hold the commission of inquiry. So it stands to question, for us to question, why? And this was President Cyril Ramaphosa's own commission. So what is his own fear in this commission going ahead with his job, considering that Minister Mchunu is a political ally himself and a member of the ANC executive? So we want to find out from our guests today, where are we headed? And will we be able to ever uncover the truth? Joining us today to uncover all of this is Andy Mashaile, who is currently an independent security strategist and cybersecurity advisor. However, he's previously held the position of Interpol ambassador to South Africa, and then also for the Turn Back Crime South Africa campaign, which involves cross-border security and intelligence sharing. He has decades of experience in global law enforcement and strategic security leadership. He has several positions, including MEC for the International Cybersecurity and Investigations Committee and a council member for the Gauteng Ethics Advisory Council, and consults for government and corporations on risk, threat, and security frameworks. Thank you for joining us today. And we're just going to get right into it. We need to perhaps go back to the claims made by Mkhwanazi. The premature disbandment of the Political Killings Task Team by Senzo Mchunu, as directed towards General Sibia, and the allegations that there is a criminal syndicate that involves the judiciary, the intelligence systems, police officers, and political leaders, and that this criminal syndicate is also in connection to an international drug cartel. These are huge accusations and allegations that General Mkhwanazi chose to make by himself on his own platform in a press briefing in July. Do you think this was the right move for him to do in his own personal capacity? And what do they really reveal about our justice and policing system as someone who has worked in these systems for many years?
Good afternoon to you, Lebone. I'm not sure what his strategy was. I'm also not sure what is the objective that he was seeking to achieve. Doing my analysis, looking at the behavior, listening to the whole presser in its entirety, the press conference in its entirety, it might be good. It might have been good for him at the time because he wanted to achieve a certain objective. And in this instance, according to my own analysis, the objective was to out the minister as being responsible for interference in the execution of policing duties. Why did he want to out the minister? I'm not sure. I can only make assumptions. And for him having had mentioned a few names in support of his claims, and for him having had put forward communication, SMS communication, social media communication, having had brought it to the fore, to the people, to the country, and to one and all who was watching and listening to that press conference, suggests that he wanted to prove that indeed the minister is interfering in the execution of policing functions, as well as prove that the minister is connected to unsavory people, for the want of a better word, people who are at odds with the law, people that the law deems distasteful. So for that point, at that point in time, it might have served him a very good purpose. Many other things comes into play. The arrests that happened and the subsequent discussions, deliberations, analysis that came through, that led to the establishment of the Madlanga Commission, as well as the ad hoc committee that decided to have to adopt its terms of reference this past Friday. I'm not sure what this past Friday date was.
It was on the 22nd.
On the 22nd, yes. So it is also significant that we should indicate that his behavior led to the establishment of, one, the Madlanga Commission, two, the ad hoc committee in Parliament that holds the department and the minister accountable with what and why happened. And the Madlanga Commission focuses on who did what. So the other one is a legal commission. The other one is a commission of accountability. A forum of accountability.
Yes, I think maybe perhaps we should speak about the different roles that these two systems are going to take. What will the Madlanga Commission focus on, and what, according to the terms of reference that have been released by the ad hoc committee last Friday, what will their focus be on? And what is the difference between the two? What are their goals? And are they both necessary?
Let's start with your last questions. Are they both necessary? To me, I don't think they're both necessary. Emotionally, but from a factual point of view, they are both necessary because they address your first question now. They address accountability, parliamentary accountability of the police department and its political head, the minister, the national commissioner, and the leadership of SAPS or the management of SAPS. The Madlanga Commission seeks to extract nuggets of criminality in that whole process that was mapped out by Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, beginning with your international organized crime syndicates dealing with drugs, having it infiltrated South Africa, established bases, and having it led to a fallout amongst themselves, leading, as it is in the public knowledge, leading to the death of a certain DJ or DJs that we have learned of. So long story short, the other one is a legal commission. It wants to find out criminality so that those people who killed people or people who died as a result of having it been killed unlawfully should be arrested, prosecuted, and convicted, as it were, as well as be incarcerated should they be found guilty. So these are the differences between the two institutions. Yes, in responding to your second question, yes, they would be necessary to help South Africans heal emotionally. And what am I talking about? Healing emotionally means the erosion of trust that exists between law enforcement agencies and South Africans. The gap has widened. So for you to be able to bring back the gap, make sure ultimately that the two institutions, the community and the police, work hand in glove, you have to address their fears and frustrations that have led to people saying hands off Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. It only shows frustration. People might not necessarily be meaning it in its real sense. They would be venting frustrations at some of the cases that could not be solved, some of the cases, the dockets that were disappeared, some of the people who were protected by those top people or top class members of our society.
Yes, because I mean, he revealed, and I think this is on record, right, that the Political Killings Task Team did manage to solve, I think there were over 4,000 cases. There were many convictions, but there were many dockets that went missing during the process. But this is something that I think you have hit the nail on the head about talking about the disjuncture between our community and the police service. That everyone was not surprised by the revelations of General Mkhwanazi simply because of their own personal encounters with the law in this country. From a personal level of simply reporting a crime, from dockets going missing, bribery being such an easy thing to happen, and just a low prosecution rate. And also that has led to a low reporting rate on behalf of our own people. They no longer trust the police to go to them. However, we also have a case where South Africa is quite a center for many international, like you said, drug cartels, terrorist institutions, many like on just a high level. And I would like to hear from your own experience, how do you see the state of the country on the level of criminal syndicates? How do you see the country on the level of the infiltration of our intelligence systems and the infiltration of the South African police service that has led us to this point?
As a practicing security strategist, I'm concerned with the value chain of security. I'm concerned with threats to security, be it personal security, be it asset security, be it provincial and national security. When these many organized crime syndicates find their way into South Africa, example being the disappearance of 200 kilograms of cocaine from the Hawks offices in the Eastern Cape, and people being killed as a result, as we have led, as it is alleged, led to believe and alleged. We begin to look in my space. I begin to look at the threat in terms of community security. What am I talking about? Community security, those young people who are going to be drug addicts.
Yes.
Those young people who are going to be snatching your bag when you go home, to be snatching, to be going for your earrings and your watch and many other things. If we take these cameras home when we knock off, we might find some addicts waiting for us, ambushing us to fit the habit, and that creates a serious gap in the national security, beginning at community street level. Yes. So you look at it from that perspective, from where I stand, and say, having had seen your Chinese mafia, your Israeli mafia, the gentleman who was arrested sometime last year in Bryanston, wanted by Interpol for crimes committed in Israel, who's been living here for 8 years, and who it is alleged that he had a van that they were torturing people in, a van that was converted into a torturing chamber. These are some of the things that I look at and provide advice in terms of those who would like strategies and tactics for personal security and many of these things. So the establishment of the basis of organized crimes is a serious challenge, and I am sure what Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi revealed, the little bit that he revealed, will tell us more when the commission sits. And for some strange reason, just to bring it into the discussion, having it picked up today that the Madlanga Commission is not going to be able to sit because of XYZ,
Yes.
says a lot with regard to the seriousness of the matter, rushing the process, and also leading to frustrations that the people were expecting a report at the end of 3 months, meaning if the goods and services and the infrastructure, as we have seen the press release, the goods and infrastructure that has not been secured or procured for the commission to can start its work, further leads to the frustrations that General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi was addressing. Will people interpret it as part and parcel of the challenges that General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi raised at his press conference? Maybe, maybe not. But let's see what comes out of the process that will be fixed after the minister speaks or explains what is happening.
And I like that you mentioned that, because the Parliamentary Ad hoc Committee adopted terms of reference on the 22nd, and they're also expected to produce their report by the 31st of October. And the Madlanga Commission was supposed to begin work on the 1st of September, and also had a very specific time frame, which is short. When you are saying the frustrations of Mkhwanazi, I want to go back to when President Ramaphosa first responded to Mkhwanazi's allegations, is saying, he should have come to me if there were concerns. And Mkhwanazi responds and says, I did present this specific report to the president, but nothing was done. And then now we have a situation in which those who are supposed to be beginning this commission say, people have been very aware that this is supposed to begin on the 1st of September, but we haven't had any progress made. Similarly, despite the severity of the allegations against the Minister of Police, the president chose the route of a special leave, which is not, there is no space for that within our constitution that a minister is placed on a special leave. They're either appointed or removed. So when I was looking at it through those lenses of very, of delays, of being, not being forthcoming about what information the president had, and the delay of this commission and the lack of proper action against the Minister of Police at this time, do you think that when people are presenting that the political leaders really are involved in this syndicate as presented by Mkhwanazi, and that this is just the beginning of many of the frustrations we will face in order to get answers?
Lebo, I would have found it difficult myself if I were Ntate Ramaphosa to immediately suspend Minister Mkhunu, because when these allegations are thrown about at the conference, you're outside of the country, you get a report, you come here, you don't want to stir the hornet's nest, because you really don't know what to say. Hence, in some of our analysis, we said before the president was speak, the president is going to say, I'm looking for a retired judge, and that retired judge will be held by a few assessors, and those assessors will listen to all the individuals involved and recommend and arrive at certain findings and recommend to me what to do. The people who were watching the press conference, 2 hours after the conference, some of them were calling me, this man must be suspended. And I understand the emotional part. I understand the heart-brain coherence, that it makes sense to suspend him. On the one hand, you come from the same organization, the same political party that governs the country, or that co-governs the country in the so-called government of national unity, or many of those things. So your long story short, it would not have been easy for him, the president, to suspend Minister Mkhunu without putting some things in the background in a strategic way, and that would not create an upset in the apple cart. It, like I say, it would have been difficult for me if I were in his shoes. But obviously, many other people find it differently in terms of responding and reacting. Those who have a better understanding of the situation would react differently to those who don't have the nitty-gritties, as you and I would understand, of how to govern and manage institutions and structures, and how to respond to conflict and how to manage conflict. This was a serious conflict for the president, in the mind and in the spirit. Hence, he decided the easy route is to get a retired judge to help me arrive at the decision. You know why, Lebo? You don't want to be sued at the end of the day. You remove the minister, the commission sits, the ad hoc committee seat says, hey, Baba, you were wrong. This man is definitely not involved in many of these things. The gentleman is now angry and is sitting at home, and the gentleman says, yeah, I don't know what the general is talking about. Do you realize the upsetting of the apple carts and many of the things that are involved that would crop out from the woodwork? Would the minister go out and sue General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi? Yeah, there are many things that would have, if we would have rushed that process, we would have had a serious problem. Now, is it not violating the constitutional safeguards that says you can't, there's no room in the constitution
Yes.
that says a minister cannot be suspended. Hey, many things happen. We saw the acting police minister, people complaining and the society complaining that he is from outside of parliament, he must be sworn in, he can't be an acting minister, and many of those things. And some people were saying to me when I'm doing analysis, does it mean that your president, and I say, what do you mean
Your president?
Your president. Does it mean that your president does not have confidence in the two deputy ministers of the police? And it would knock the wind out of me. People would have expected one or two of the deputies to be an acting minister, and they would change given time, either act for 30 days or act for half of the duration that has been set for the commission, something like that. So these are some of the things, Lebo, that makes this question not difficult to answer, but that forces both you and I to analyze and create a conducive situation that will not create chaos for the country, for the running of SAPS, and many other processes.
Are you of the opinion that the state of policing, the state of crime in South Africa, and with the information from General Mkhwanazi that many people have witnessed in their own experience of this country, especially with the implication of members of the judiciary as well, do you think that it is possible for our policing and justice system to turn around and serve the people the way they should?
There's a concept called hotspot stabilization and normalization. That concept goes like, Lebo, if the hotspot is the leadership, you need to stabilize the leadership so that you can normalize that situation, so that that situation can operate normally as per the instructions of the people that gave a permission to the president to appoint that leadership of the police. So using that analogy and that strategy and that tactic, I would say the hotspot is the national leadership of the police. Some of them are my personal friends. Some of them, I know them very well. Personal from having worked with them as the chairperson of the Community Police Board in Gauteng and having operated with them at national events and many of those things. But Lebo, the truth is, if the leadership is a hotspot, it needs to be stabilized. You need to get people out. You need to replace people. You don't need to reshuffle them in their various units and components. You need to get new people.
So you think it's a situation that can be resolved?
It can be resolved. There are many countries in the world, when I do my research, that have had serious challenges with regard to police leadership. One of these examples is the New York Police Department. It was a mess, and Commissioner Brereton was employed, and he introduced community policing in New York. That community policing that we learned from in South Africa and started bringing communities together. He turned around the New York Police Department from a crime prevention point of view, crime combating point of view. They have their own flaws of racial profiling and many of those things, and killing people, and people, even when people are telling them I can't breathe, they think they know better than other people, playing little gods or deputy gods and that kind of stuff. But the New York Police Department was turned around. So from that strategy, I spent a lot of time researching on that strategy, and I realized that you can turn a police leadership around and you can reduce crime. When you look at before the Commissioner Brereton in the New York Police Department in the New York area, before him and post him, before him whilst he was in office and post his time in office, you see a big difference. I strongly believe that the leadership of the police needs to be changed so that you can have a new mindset. Which leadership of police? I'm talking about the operational arm of the police, from the Director General of the department. Remember, National Commissioner is nothing else but a Director General. Commissioner is just a fancy title. He's a Director General of a department. We would need to get a Director General that is competent, that holds the whole department to account, heads of department, the Deputy Director Generals, the DDGs that work with him, that we refer to as the Deputy National Commissioners. We definitely need to get people who know what they're doing there. Am I suggesting that they don't know what they're doing? In response to that same question that I'm asking myself, I look at the crime stats year on year in the past 10 years. And I can safely say, for this podcast and you, the crime stats are telling us something completely different.
Yes, indeed.
Yes,
and many patterns. Like it's the same pattern that you see each and every year, and they have access to this information, but still there's not much transformation that happens in terms of crime. In terms of this idea of leadership, Professor Kachalia began his term as acting minister, police minister on the 1st of August. Do you think he is a competent leader?
He has the know-with-all. Remember that he's also a professor of law.
Yes.
And he is one of the first secretary of police, having it been employed by Ntate Nelson Mandela initially, and he became the MEC of Safety and Security, which is where
in Gauteng.
In Gauteng, where I met him. And I currently sit with him at the provincial level. Is Gauteng Ethics Advisory Council, as I'm a member of the council. He was the leader or the chairperson of the National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council, dealing with very serious issues, the establishment of the Office of Public Integrity, which is going to focus on corruption, like any other countries that have institutions that deal with corruption on a 24-hour basis. I think he has what it takes. But here is a rider label. You can come in fresh and young, or fresh and highly skilled and highly equipped. If you find a team that is in disarray, you are going to be held accountable for people who, the leadership that is not stable. So his first job is to stabilize the hotspot. The issue is with the current scenario of the ad hoc committee as well as the Madlanga Commission. Stabilizing that hotspot is a serious challenge. Would I support him in ensuring that he stabilizes the hotspot? Yes, obviously you and I and the viewer would like him to stabilize the situation so that we are able to reduce the level of crime, crime and lawlessness in our country. Yes.
So he's coming to face two things, like you said, the ad hoc committee and the Madlanga Commission, and there are going to be outcomes in both systems. So it's a two-pronged question of what is the state of these two in terms of what are they to make recommendations? What kind of power do they have in instituting whatever recommendations that they've decided to portray, both the commission and the committee, and if they make different outcomes, which ones are binding?
Let me respond to your questions. The two processes, when the findings converge, it will be a plus for the process and for the legitimacy of the two processes and the integrity. If the findings diverge, the legitimacy of the process goes out of the window, and the integrity
for both processes.
Yes.
Okay.
The integrity of the process in terms of Bayenzeni, what were they doing? Why couldn't they agree? Why couldn't they do A, B, C, D, F, G? When the findings diverge, it's a serious problem, meaning the recommendations are going to go against each other's faces, and they cannot be then forwarded to the president. If they're forwarded to the president, it's going to be back to zero. Here's a challenging situation. And now, the last part of the comment would be, Parliament has a responsibility to ensure that the constitutionality of the process and the department is adhered to. The Madlanga Commission has to make sure that from a crime investigations point of view, some people must be arrested, and some people that must be arrested might actually be sitting
in those.
Yes.
And that was going to be my next question, because there have been leaders implicated, political leaders implicated, and probably there's more that's going to come out as people take the stand.
Yes.
And I think it's already, in fact, that political tension is already present in so far in the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee, where there are many derailments, many questions, and maybe attempts by certain political parties to redirect terms of reference and where people should look and where they shouldn't look. I think last week there was a whole thing around classified information, and there was not an agreement on how to deal with that. So that is just one of the many examples, which then leads me to ask if the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee is not already compromised to some extent because of the political nature of some of the allegations made by Mkhwanazi.
Ausleb. If the three of us sat in the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee and we came from three different organizations, obviously, we're going to go into an alliance, either to expel the minister because of the allegations, or support the minister if we come from his organization and those that are aligned with his organization. If you say to me, before you continue, how would you respond if you were there? I would have just said, which has been my stance all along, since I have given analysis on these matters. I would have allowed the Madlanga Commission to kickstart the legal process, the process that identifies criminality and those connections. And from there, as the advisor at the ad hoc committee, I would have said the findings would then help me as the ad hoc committee to say, my daughter, you guys have been committing crime, coming here, giving us presentations. No, this is what must happen. DG or National Commissioner, no. That particular person, Mr. A or Mr. B, who's your Deputy National Commissioner or any other commissioner or head of department or police station commander or something like that. No. That particular person can't be working in this department. And you have the responsibility. The buck stops with you from a disciplinary process point of view and from a dismissal point of view. So, in going back to the second point that I wanted to share with you, when those two processes collide, we are left with a situation whereby those in the ad hoc committee are going to find themselves or will find themselves compromised because of the findings of the judge. And remember, a commission is like a court of law. Yes, it has the final say in terms of the decisions that it has arrived at. What you and I would call the findings to the commission is like a court. Yes, and here's a rider, Mojapelo. When the findings are made and are made against me as a Deputy National Commissioner, do I have the right to review those findings? And if I review those findings, what does it mean for the recommendations? And what does it mean for the findings of the ad hoc committee? Yes. So this process must be smoothly managed and properly managed so that you actually don't create a monster out of this process. If it's not going to be properly managed, it's going to create a monster for all of us.
Do you find that perhaps we also have a commission fatigue where I think in many instances, the commissions of inquiry have not really resulted in any proper action being taken? There have been also many where I know let's say we had this conversation last week on the podcast with the Farlamo inquiry into Marikana, where certain reports were not publicly shared, where terms of reference were very limited, not to admit, survivors, and people have to fight. And, commission on state capture that went on for much longer than it was supposed to go to. And a lot of the prosecutions that people were expecting to happen have not occurred. And, the NPA is said to be also compromised in that sense. Do you, as much as we can, speak to that perhaps the Parliamentary Ad hoc Committee could have waited for the results of the commission, there might be a sense that there is an expectation that the Commission of Inquiry may not yield much due to what has occurred with previous commissions.
People are tired of the commissions. Tired is a soft word.
Mm-hmm.
People are angry with the commissions of the past because of the prosecutions and the convictions and people going to jail. We learned of this, changed their uniforms from what to orange as a result of those commissions. Now, South Africans wants to see me, wants to see you, wants to see all those who are involved in the wrongdoing change from suits to blue suits to orange overalls or orange jumpsuits, as Americans would put it.
Yes.
So your commission's fatigue is the last step. The first step in this process is witness fatigue. The two processes. Today you're going to be called to account to the ad hoc committee. A day later or 2 days later or a week later, you are going to be asked to go and give evidence or testify at the Madlanga Commission. How do we make sure that we separate the hearings in terms of a public interest? I'm sure people like yourself are going to go to court and say, we the podcasters want the court to open to be an open court so that we can, So when you have that situation where your TVs, your media general, including yourself, the media is going to go to court and say, we want to record, we want to be in court. The evidence that is put before the Madlanga Commission and the evidence that's going to be put before the ad hoc committee, will they speak to each other? Will people tweak down to satisfy that one, or will people say a lot to satisfy the next forum? So we have some challenges. I don't know how we're going to manage that, but these are some of the things that in my analysis, in my line of work, I have to point out so that as weaknesses, so that you can look at
look into it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the what I would consider a weakness, I think, is that there's going to be a case of whistleblowers. There's going to be a case where people want to come out and speak up, but we don't have a good history of protecting those kinds of people.
Whistleblowers, yes.
What is the possible solution to this? Is there a way in which we can really ensure the safety of whistleblowers so that we can have as much information and as many people coming forward as possible? Or are we creating a dangerous situation?
Yesterday, I received a piece of information that is in the public knowledge about the findings of the SIU at Tembisa Hospital.
Yes, that is where
Yes,
Babita
was killed for. Yes, for exposing the rot there. 111 officials, as per the article, as per the wedding or the sharing of knowledge or information by my namesake, Andy Mutiba. Andy says in the article, or his spokesperson says in the article, they're going to recover any property to that has been bought by the contracts that were irregularly issued out as tenders. Now, those 111 officials, if you're one of them and you are living in Sentin or in Alex, you have built a 27-story house in Alex, what would you do to make sure that you cover your tracks? Many things. Many things would happen. So only Lebo from this example of the Tembisa story and the Tembisa news article, you know that those who are going to be whistleblowers, those who are going to say, no, it doesn't only stop here. It continues actually up to the whistleblowers and those who will come out of the woodwork. There might be serious repercussions for those individuals. Level of risk on a scale of 1 to 10, 8 to 9 on my scale.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So we definitely need to ensure that, like I said, given the media interest, put forward as public interest,
yes,
it's going to create a lot of challenges. You'll have Mr. X in the box, but
yes,
Mr. X will be identified.
Identified
Or
already.
Miss X will be identified.
Or
yes.
even misidentified.
Yeah, or misidentified.
Which can create even more problems. So you're saying that 8 out of 10, 8 to 9 out of 10,
yeah,
the level of risk
yes.
for whistleblowers
Yes.
in our country. I mean, that limits the scope of whatever investigations are going to take place in either inquiries.
The killers of Babita Diokaran, I don't know if you know what happened to them.
Were there any prosecutions?
Yeah, that's the point. People would still ask that. By the way, what happened to Lebu Andy? What happened to the killers of that woman? And honestly, I haven't really made a follow-up. Meaning, we don't know that people were given life sentences or 100 years. And that simple question makes or breaks the chain, the value chain of justice. People are going to say, why did she not look away? Meaning the fear in the individual who's making that statement says, if I were Babita and I knew of what is going on, I was not going to say anything. I mean, my kids won't have anything to eat. So long story short, my level of risk assessment on the risk assessment index suggests that people want to provide information knowing from an example of those others who had provided information earlier on, knowing that those that they ratted out on are in jail. But if there's that little doubt, people won't give information. Sorry, for an example, the crime stats are only those crimes that are reported. We also know that women do get raped and some of them don't report because they're afraid of being killed. Yes.
And I mean, another element to it is how, which is what's also coming out is that a lot of these guys are hired guns. They can get 20 years, 30 years, but it's difficult and has been rare for us to know the person behind the instruction for people to be murdered in these kinds of cases.
Let me tell you something interesting. This tender mafia economy and the construction mafia economy, now you have the water mafia.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. Those economies have twin cousins, if I want to put it that way. And one of those cousins would be the hitman economy.
Inkabi.
Yeah, hitman economy.
Yes.
It's booming.
It's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. It's an industry on its own. You see it in the taxi industry. You see it in many other industries, your drug cartels and that kind of stuff. So all those people who are trigger pullers are what in our language call the runners.
Yes.
Yeah. If he gets arrested, you replace him, you change the personal salary number, the PESAL as it were in government, or your unique number as it were to be here at home where we are. The unique number gets replaced. If a runner gets killed by police out there, there's a new recruit waiting
immediately
in on the wings. So your hitman economy, will it increase? Will it grow from these processes? Definitely. Yes. Am I cursing the process? No, I don't have any reason to do that. Am I logically instilling fear? No, I'm not instilling fear. I am only saying, having seen, looking at different industries, looking at different court matters. For an example, in the Western Cape, witnesses are killed at the door
of the courtroom.
Of the courtroom.
At the door. That
yes,
was, that is indeed incredibly scary.
Yes, not one witness, many witnesses. So it tells you.
Many witnesses, but not one witness.
Yes. Many witnesses, but not one witness. So it tells you. I hope and pray that law enforcement does things differently. I am assuming and hoping that those people who really want to share information, some of them would take it upon themselves to employ your close protection officers, bodyguards, if you want to go that way. Does it mean a boom in the security industry, private security industry? Many of those things.
Many industries are booming, in Kabi and security at the same time.
Yeah.
For this process.
Yeah.
Just to speak, you spoke earlier about how the issue of hotspot,
yes,
where if leadership is corrupt and is not functional and competent, then that needs to be changed. And that is assuming that in this process we discover that our commissioners and our police leadership are part of this criminal syndicate. What happens if the hotspotting is coming from a higher level in our political structures? At the executive, perhaps?
The president needs to remove them. Period. The president needs to place someone with integrity. Not someone who's going to spend time at a penthouse of Mr. X, Mr. Mashaile, or Mr. So-and-so. No.
And if the president himself is implicated?
Then we have a serious problem. We have a bottleneck in terms of justice and in terms of law enforcement. And when you have that bottleneck, we have a responsibility as South Africans, myself as a father and a leader for many years and many other things, an advisor in these processes. We have to help our government, not one party, not the EFF, not ANC, not this or that party, not a fish and chips party or something, but the leadership, the people of our country. we have a responsibility to say, let's reflect. It's not about us. It's about the people who have voted us into office, and therefore, let's get someone who will do the job. And maybe not coming from a perspective of saying you are campaigning for ANC or EFF or DA or many of them, but from a perspective that says we want to deal with crime. Let's get someone who can do the job for us. Does it mean that we must go and get those old white men who were part of the white government that dispossessed us many years ago and that continued to prop up apartheid? If they were doing the job correctly, let's get someone to do the job correctly.
And then I think maybe just to round it up, we are at a standstill, obviously, with the Madlanga Commission. What do you think the way forward with that should be, right, as we speak? There are delays, there's problems with infrastructure. What should they do, especially knowing that there is not a lot of time for them to be able to produce a significant report?
Lebo, there are many government buildings, government communication information services, beautiful buildings with what you call these seats, theater seats. Yeah, and there are many offices of government. Maybe to respect the process and to respect the judge. For us not having it procured those things, it's actually showing disrespect to the judge.
Yes.
By extension to the people who want the judge to do the job, the people of the country. What we need to have done is to put the judge in a beautiful office with those seats that I have spoken about, or the process as it's happening with Parliament, going out there to set up temporary structure that would then be done away with in the next 30 days. So that,
exactly.
Yeah, so that the respect that the judge deserves continues. I can imagine he might not be an emotional person like you and I are dealing with facts now and mixing with a bit of emotion and looking at the holistic situation. But when you sit down yourself in your room and say, hey, I was supposed to have started on the 1st. Now I must tell my spokesperson to say to the media that I cannot start on the 1st. It affects you. It affects your spirit and your soul. So maybe we should have done things differently. I would not have called the judge and told him that we did not secure infrastructure. I would have said, Judge, in the meantime, can we start here? Please, media, come. This is temporary. This hall is temporary. The Johannesburg City Hall is temporary. We are securing the right things, but the judge will be operating from here. I'm just citing an example.
That the show should have just continued.
Yeah, the show should have just continued. But a lot of people are going to differ with us. It's their right to differ with us, and it's their they can keep their opinion. We will continue to spew this opinion that says some of us believe that the judge should have been treated differently with respect. Maybe the minister will, as we have learned through the press releases, maybe the minister will give valid reasons, but I still believe that we could have done things differently.
Yes.
Even if it would have been to ask the Constitutional Court, ask the permission of Umama Maya, the Chief Justice, to say, kindly give us a week to operate or 3 days to operate in this beautiful setting. Yeah, so at least we would have done something that shows respect to the Deputy Chief Justice.
That indeed makes a lot of sense. I think as a parting shot, as we round up our conversation, I think you've given, obviously, like stated, that you think the commission should have gone on and respect should have been given. as the parliamentary ad hoc committee has begun and is moving forward, what advice would you have for them? What would you say to them as they go on this journey with this process of investigation?
Stick to your lane in terms of your constitutional mandate. Justice must stick to its mandate, and the ad hoc committee, the constitutional prescripts, and that gives them authority to do that. And secondly, the schedules of witnesses, I'm not sure how they're managed, but they should be drawn and managed in a way and manner that it does not compromise any of the two processes. Thirdly, the two processes that are juxtapositioned should take into consideration witness fatigue. You might give evidence not for a day, but for 3 days or 4 days or 5 days, one witness. I'm not sure how they're going to manage that schedule, and might also be requested or required to go and give evidence at the next forum for a sizable number of days, which will obviously lead to fatigue. We have seen witnesses being fatigued out of the processes of the past, be it your Truth and Reconciliation
Yes,
Commission.
indeed.
We have seen people cry, we have seen families break down. So that would be witness fatigue, amongst other things, that needs to be managed in a way and manner that the integrity and the legitimacy of the process is upheld.
Okay. Thank you very much, Andy, for joining us. And yes, we were going to watch what happens with both processes, and I hope they turn out well.
That's my hope and that's my wish, that our country grow from strength to strength from this process, from the findings of this process and from the operation of this process, so that we can have a better country. We have had a good country, we can move to being a better country. Our objective is to being the best country that not only serves South Africans, but serves the rest of Africa in terms of opportunities, assistance, and many of these things.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and you'll still be tuning in to both the inquiry and the ad hoc committee to watch the progress of the investigation into General Mkhwanazi's allegations. Thank you.